to the What Bitcoin Did podcast.
Hello, Bitcoiners. Hi from New York. How are you all? I'm on the last few days of this trip. I'm going to be heading back to the Global Center for Bitcoin. I'm going to be heading back to Bedford on Saturday. So it's been quite a trip. But welcome to the What Bitcoin Did podcast, which is brought to you by the mighty Kraken, the best place in the world for buying Bitcoin. And did you check out my interview with Kraken's Chief Security Officer, Nick Pokoko? It was my last release. If you haven't, you definitely need to go and check it out. The feedback has been great. People seem to really like that show, so I definitely want you to hear it. I want you to find out about why Kraken is the best place and the safest place for buying Bitcoin. But also, we're moving on to this week's show. I've got another monster episode. I've got Zac Prince from my sponsor, BlockFi, and Jeremy Welch from the amazing Casa. But before that, I've got a message from my show sponsors. So firstly, I'm going to talk to you about Dropbit. You know these by now. I know you know them because you keep emailing me, and a few people emailed me this week, said they downloaded it, said they downloaded the app, and I sent you some Bitcoin. These guys are crushing innovation with Bitcoin mobile wallets, and I've tried out a few others, and they're all rubbish. Dropbit is the best. So make sure you definitely check it out. You can text Bitcoin to people. You can tweet Bitcoin to people. It is just like a Venmo for Bitcoin. It is without doubt the best UX for a Bitcoin wallet out there. And they've got loads of cool, exciting things coming up soon. It is available for the iPhone and Android. Just head over to dropbit.app, which is dropbit.app. That is dropbit.app, which is dropbit.app. Also, today's show is brought to you by Accounting, which is easily the best crypto tax calculator in the market. Are you taking your crypto tax seriously? Are you prepping to sort out your tax returns for your Bitcoin returns? Have you made some money this year? If you are, then you definitely need to check out Accounting, as they take all the hassle away for you. One of the best things about this company is the speed of innovation. I speak to them regularly. Every week or two, they tell me the new things they're working on, and they've also just made a bunch of very cool updates recently, improving their already amazing UX. But it's not just a tax tool. I know that's helpful. I know if you want to pay your tax, it's really helpful to be able to have somebody do this for you, but they've also got this amazing portfolio manager, which makes sure you sell the right coins at the right time to reduce your tax burden. Also, they've got an app coming soon, an app for your mobile, which allows you to deal with your tax returns and your portfolio management on the move. It is the best price tool on the market, and you only pay at the point where you export your report. So if you are taking your tax seriously, make sure you definitely go and check out Accounting, which is at accounting.com, which is accointing.com. That is accounting.com, which is accointing.com. Okay, so on to today's show, and I've got two of my favorite people in the world of Bitcoin from two of my favorite companies. As I said in the intro, I've got Zac Prince from BlockFi, who are a sponsor, and Jeremy Welch from Casa. I'm not doing this because they're a sponsor. When they recently told me about their partnership, I was like, well, this is definitely an excuse to get two of the people I love talking about Bitcoin with into a room, talk about the partnership, but then just talk about a bunch of other really cool stuff. Both have been on the show previously. I just had one with Jeremy a couple of weeks ago. I know it's a bit of a quick turnaround, but you should definitely go and check that one out. It's a total monster. Had me massively bullish after I did that with him. So, as I mentioned, they've got a new partnership. They've got benefits for both Casa and BlockFi clients if you sign up to either one. So you can definitely find out about that. But as both companies are focused on building utility, which is something I wanted to cover, I think it's quite important that we start considering utility with Bitcoin. I was like, come on, guys, I'm going to be in New York. Let's do this. Let's get together. And as always, you never know how one of these conversations is going to go. And we quickly got beyond the partnership and started talking about some quite interesting stuff and got into the whole hyper Bitcoinization area. But we also get into some other things. We talk about ditching altcoins, stacking sats, and the unintended consequences of the Bitcoin protocol that I'm pretty sure some of you will never have thought about. I hadn't. But yeah, certainly some interesting stuff, especially when Jeremy starts talking about Bitcoin being more than a financial system, which is super cool. Anyway, I hope you enjoy it. You know, if you've got any questions about the show, you can always reach out to me. My email address is hello@whatbitcoindid.com. Just a note, this trip's about to come to an end. I'm going to be flying home in a couple of days, heading back home to spend some time with my kids. I've got a whole bunch of shows prepped in advance, 2 specials. I've got a week of specials about Libra, and I've also got a week of specials about the ATM part of the industry. So keep an eye out for that. If you want to support the show, you can do by heading over to my website. Go to whatbitcoindid.com. There's a support section. It'll explain everything you can do. I also need to say a big thanks to my Patreon top tier sponsor, Vidyen, makers of vidhash.com, where demonetized YouTube content creators can earn Monero, which you can then go and sell for Bitcoin when fans watch via their web mining links. That's vidhash.com, which is vidhash.com. All right, on to the interview. You got any questions, you know you can reach out to me. It's hello@whatbitcoindid.com. All right, guys. Hello, Jeremy.
How are you?
Are you all right, man?
All good.
You all right, Zach?
All good.
So me and Jeremy did a show, what was it? Only about like 3 weeks ago, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And,
London.
Yeah, it was a good one. People liked it, so we should try and avoid the same subjects.
Okay.
You've got an announcement. Who's going to tell about the announcement first?
I think Jeremy should.
Why throwing it to me? I
No.
lean to you and then.
Yeah, no,
Totally.
I'm happy to do it. So the announcement is that we're excited to officially announce that BlockFi and Casa have entered into a partnership. Today, the partnership basically means that we're sharing benefits on our respective platforms with clients of the other platforms. So if you're an existing client at BlockFi, you can sign up for Casa's leading self-sovereign custody products at a discounted rate. And similarly, if you're a client of Casa, you can access BlockFi's products on the interest side with a bit of an interest boost, and on the loan side with a bit of a discount on some of the fees associated with borrowing capital. So
Yeah.
we're starting there, and I think there's going to be a lot more interesting things that we can do with each other down the road. So
Yeah, and we looked for a while. We had a lot of customers asking us about financial products with their Bitcoin. There are a lot of people that hodl. I'm a huge hodler, but there's I don't trade any, and I'm obsessive about, and that's why I even founded the company. But we have a lot of customers that were asking us look, I want to use some financial products. I've been thinking about loans. I have a new home, or I have something else that I'm buying. I don't want to sell all my Bitcoin. And so we've been looking for a partner for quite a while, and found Zach and Florian team, and just a very fast sync. And it took us actually a little longer than we'd planned, because we really tried to vet out and think about the privacy model, think about the security model around the setup too. There's no data exchange. Neither company is making any money whatsoever from this. We're passing all the savings off to the customer. And it's really designed in that way. We kind of vetted BlockFi. We knew that there would be a big wall between us in terms of, again, no data sharing. We were obsessive about data privacy. So people that don't use this are fully protected. There's no difference for them. And then people that do decide to use it, they get a little bit of a boost. And likewise from the other side.
yeah, and I don't know if we want to go back a little bit in time, but Jeremy and I learned after meeting in the crypto world that we actually basically crossed paths at Google back in the day. We were both working at companies that worked with each other that both ended up getting acquired by Google.
He was in ad tech too.
Really?
So you and I have talked about ad tech stuff, and part of the spark for that the last one we recorded was around ad tech. But this guy was in ad tech as well. On the exact in the technical spectrum. We built products that were kind of on the exact opposite sides of the same market. So we were all on the buy side, and he was kind of on the publisher sales side. Yep. But very similar products.
And our companies partnered with each other. Yeah. So basically,
and they both sold into Google.
And they both got acquired by Google. The company I was at was called AdMeld, and we were one of the first what was called a sell side platform. So it was basically you're a publisher on the internet, you need to figure out how to sell more of your ads at better prices, and there were companies like Invite Media, where Jeremy was, who had models and targeting strategies that enabled them to buy the ads in real time targeted towards certain segments or demographics or whatever. And so Invite was a large buyer of media through AdMeld. Invite got acquired by Google first, and then AdMeld maybe a year and a half afterwards. So we might have even been at Google at the same time.
Yeah,
I don't think either one of us lasted long.
Yeah, we never knew it.
We didn't actually end up doing that full ad show like we planned. We went right down the Bitcoin rabbit hole, didn't we?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a whole discussion there around privacy and data, and part of you in our partnership is we're both aware of the ad tech side, right? And so that was part of the thing that we even discussed going into this partnership is just being very careful about that. But it was a very real thing because we've both been in that world.
I think it was a natural fit. When I heard about it, it was a natural fit between the two companies. Knowing both companies, quite well. I've obviously know you both.
Of course.
It was a real natural fit. And obviously now when I buy my Casa Knows, I can get $50 off because I'm a customer of BlockFi.
There you go.
BlockFi.
Done.
I forgot to tell you. Do you know what happens in Uber with BlockFi?
It shows up.
No, so you put it in, but when it turns up,
What?
it calls you BlockFi.
It says that?
It says you
verbally?
Yeah, it came on the thing. Whatever I was in, whether it was Uber or the Google Map, it said you've arrived at BlockFi.
I don't even know how that happens. Or
I don't. So when
Was it just Google Maps?
I don't know. It just no, because the reason I brought this up is was it my first ad read or my second ad read for you?
Yeah, you used to call us
I
BlockFi.
used to call them BlockFi.
Nice. Bravo.
So what was the background? Like, when did this all start? When was all the planning? How long have you guys been working on this?
I mean, we synced up earlier in the year.
Yeah.
It was actually through another person from our team. I think Michael saw one of your guys at an event.
Met Christian somewhere.
Yeah, and then they're the real masterminds. We're just in here, doing their bidding. But they definitely they synced up. They talked a bunch about how we should collaborate, and then a few weeks later we got together and just kind of hashed it out. And then we went through several months of just thinking through both. We were building out this full privacy policy, the full privacy and open data policy, and then we talked a bunch about the data side, about the privacy side, about how to structure it legally and regulatory risk. Because we're very careful on our side. We're obsessive about staying in this very clear zone. We don't want to get in a gray zone. We hold one key out of the total 5 keys with a lot of our clients, but we are very clearly in this space to where we're unregulated, and the clients own their money. They hold their money. We support them, and we don't want to get over that hurdle or get into a gray area. So it was important that we kind of structured this the right way, because Zac's in the opposite case, right? Where they're very clearly trying to be very close to regulators, making sure that they're complying on each thing, which is important. And that kind of wall is actually really important because you don't want, your funds, your kind of long-term funds, if you're not putting them into a financial product, to be affected by anything on that side.
The financial product side is growing quite quickly, right? I mean, you've got competitors as well, but it seems to be, as a category, it's growing. People are kind of accepting it more. I think all the initial kind of bluster around the interest accounts is now blown over. I certainly love my interest. At the end of each month, I kind of look forward to it. It's not a small amount that I've made so far. It's significant. So you finding that this is a real growth sector for you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, I feel like there's a lot of things going on right now that are generating a sense of validation for us. One is, the first slide that we had in our presentation before we raised our first round of capital 2 years ago basically said that financial markets for cryptocurrencies were nascent and incomplete, and that you had the ability to exchange between one asset into another. You had the ability to kind of raise funds via a pseudo IPO, but it was an ICO. But things like lending and insurance and savings accounts were just non-existent. And that was our thesis in starting to build the company. And the other thing that's validating is that we're now, out of crypto winter. Anybody who maybe a year ago was telling us well, I just don't know if this market is even going to continue to be around is clearly wrong. And so it feels great to be operating the business with market tailwinds instead of market headwinds.
The Federal Reserve Chairman today, right? He's talking about Bitcoin as
gold,
store of value. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's a really, really exciting time. And I think there's still, on our roadmap at BlockFi, we still have multiple incremental products that we want to bring to the market. But it's been awesome. I mean, everything that we build, I kind of wanted for myself. And so I'm using all of our products and we're getting feedback from clients regularly that, prices go up. Now their loan is over collateralized and they're moving Bitcoin out from their loan and into the interest account. Or we get, sentiment like what you just described, Peter, that, it just feels great to make money. And it's not an insubstantial.
I mean, that's actually a really
amount
important
of money.
thing. On the side of there's definitely, it's still very immature on the financial products side in this space. And part of the reason is because so many of the regulated side bankers they don't want to take the risk.
Well, they
and
can't
they're
touch
so
it.
skittish.
They're not
Well,
allowed-
the
if you're-
traditional banks can't touch it.
Correct.
But beyond that, there are a lot of people that even spin out. They've got plenty of money. They could go start a company and they could do whatever, but they're uncertain about this space. And so you guys are filling this nexus of understanding both the Bitcoin side and the financial product side, which is interesting.
It's funny because operating my podcast, which is essentially now a business, I often come across people, they're like, well, yeah, Bitcoin's only used for speculation and there's no real use cases. And I'm sitting there thinking, well, I invoice with Bitcoin, I get paid with Bitcoin, I pay people with Bitcoin.
Yep.
I have my Bitcoin stored in my interest account with BlockFi where I get my interest. I've got my Dropbit app. You know, these are all my sponsors.
Yep.
I've got my Dropbit app, which I now take Bitcoin away with me. And I use that now when I'm away. And like sometimes when people want paying, I give them Bitcoin. I'm using Kraken to, when I get paid in Bitcoin, I want dollars into my bank account because I pay, I run the business on dollars. So I use that. So when these people are saying, it's just speculation, I'm like, no, there is a whole economy here. It is becoming more
100%.
circular. And there's a lot of companies providing utility, which is why I like both your companies, because you're actually doing something that people are using.
Yeah, and you're also seeing, I do believe that there was, you heard this a lot for a while, that there would be a little bit of a washout during the bear market. And I think that was the right sentiment to have. I think it's something that's absolutely started to play out, but you see people like Jeremy and the team at Casa, like you with your business, like, BlockFi. There's this camp of individuals who have started things over the last 1 to 3 years that are really good at what they do, and they work really hard, and they didn't stop building things throughout that entire time, and all of that helps the sector. It's all very, very real. It's like the opposite of death by 1,000 cuts. All these things just add up together over time to help fuel the industry forward.
What doesn't kill you makes you stronger, right?
Yeah, I don't have a huge valuation or an investment from venture capital, but my thing is still my thing. But we've all grown during a bear market.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can you imagine what it's going to be like over the next year
In a real bull market. Yeah, my God.
Yeah.
By the way, I'm convinced that, we're talking about the Fed chair, the Bitcoin sign guy, he brought the bull to one of the conferences.
Magic Crypto.
The Magic Crypto guy. He brought a bull.
He did. He
to
rode
the
it
conference.
in.
Yeah, he brought the bull. So we have Bitcoin sign guy to thank for the bringing the bull back.
Do you know we have Bitcoin bad guy as well now?
Wait,
seen
who is
this
the
one?
Bitcoin bad guy? No.
Did you not see the Deutsche Bank meme that went out the other day?
His name is Bitcoin Bad Guy.
He's Bitcoin.
Is he getting famous?
He's getting famous.
I hope he gets famous.
He doesn't even work for Deutsche Bank.
No,
he's a
really?
tailor.
I thought
He's a
he was-
tailor.
What? He's a
Yeah,
tailor.
he was taking
I didn't
shit.
know this. Holy shit.
Yeah, so I messaged him and I tweeted him. I said, "You need to hang out with Bitcoin Sign Guy." No, he is.
He needs to come on the podcast.
There's a thing. There's a thing going to go on. Bitcoin Sign Guy and Bitcoin Bad Guy are going to.
They're gonna hang out.
They're going to hang out. Do the
Okay.
thing.
What do you
you
also
also
call
have-
that podcast?
Bitcoin and memes.
Bitcoin memes.
You also have the Joe Scarborough or like somebody on CNBC who was talking.
yeah, you
he
should
was
get him.
he
You
was
should
talking
get him
about
in
how
too.
Libra was not a real cryptocurrency, and then all of a
Yeah.
sudden like everybody on
Yeah.
crypto Twitter is like just sending him great memes, and he gets all pumped about
You
that.
could see him. You could see him like thinking through it on air. He was like, I'm just kind of thinking that this is not right. This doesn't feel any different than, that this doesn't feel any different than what we already have. And he's just like slowly working through the logic, and you can see it on air.
Is that the
and then all of a
Squawk
sudden
guy?
he got just this massive pump.
Is that the Squawk Box guy?
Yeah,
I think
the
so,
Squawk
yeah.
Box
Squawk
guy.
Box guy. Yeah.
So he's great. And then obviously we've got the sports guys getting involved. Everyone knows Russell Okung, Nakamo Okung is getting involved. Tony Hawk the other day.
Yeah.
Tony Hawk's riding it up.
Yeah.
I think next year's going to be big.
I think it's going to be crazy. Paris Hilton has a book, right? Paris Hilton has the...
Rabbi's book.
Yeah, Bitcoin Rabbi's book. Shout out to the Bitcoin Kids book.
Have you seen that? Have you seen that book?
Yeah.
Did you see the picture of me and my daughter?
No,
I've got a pic. No. I've got a
Oh.
picture of me and her together. I'm reading the kids' book, and she's reading Mastering Bitcoin.
Nice. Of course.
But my kids get it. My kids get Bitcoin now. They ask about it. My son wrote about it for a school project.
Wow.
They're like, my son came to me and he said, "Dad, I've got to do a presentation at school. I've got to do a speech. I want to do it on Bitcoin." I was like, "Sounds cool. What do you want to do it on?" He said, "Well, can you give me some ideas?" And I said, "Well, why don't you do the human rights side?" and freedom. He did. So when I researched it, he wrote about how people are using Bitcoin in Venezuela.
Wow.
Like, he's really into it. So, yeah, I think the next year's going to be big. It's going to be big for both of you guys, though.
It's also really good that when you see the Bitcoin community affecting this positive change, or really calling out the positive impact that this can have on the world, because there's an angle to it where it's a hedge against macroeconomic uncertainty, it's a hedge against fiat instability.
Yeah.
I just find that for myself, when I'm talking about it, when I'm convincing other people that Bitcoin's here to stay and it's a great investment and all these other things, people get way more attracted to the positive part.
Totally.
If I go it all down the path of like, oh, well, do you even know how messed up central bank balance sheets? And then everyone's like, now you're scaring me.
Yeah,
you're scaring me, and I don't like it.
Yeah.
But if you're talking
100%.
about the Bitcoin children's book and all these cool things that you can actually do with it now, and where it's being used for,
People start to understand
affecting
money
positive
more,
change.
right? They understand like what it actually is.
Sometimes.
Well,
I found
yeah.
that part to be really challenging. Like that once I go into that part.
They're at least
then
asking
people-
questions.
They will ask questions about it.
They would never ask questions. I think that you'd even go 2 years ago, 1 year ago, and definitely 5 or 10 years ago, people weren't asking questions. I mean, the last financial crisis, I was in New York City. This is around the time I was doing ad tech, and I just remember walking around. It was like tumbleweeds through New York City. It was crazy. But you'd talk to people. I'd even talk to some of my friends who were working in banking, and they weren't even asking the major questions, right? To where now I feel like many more people are asking the questions.
Well, Trump helped us out recently. There was that tweet he was saying about, well, if Europe and China are going to print more money, we'll have to print more money.
I didn't see that one.
You didn't see that?
Oh, boy.
You saw that one,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Buy Bitcoin.
He was like,
Yeah, he's like, if they're going to play the currency games, we will too. We'll
Yeah.
play them better
Holy
than you.
shit.
yeah, we'll print more than you.
Yeah.
So I'm like, let's get some more Bitcoin. But then, look, there's some scary stuff happening. We've got the negative interest rates coming.
Yeah.
I think, is it Germany? They've got a negative
Junk
yield on the bonds?
junk bonds have
Yeah.
negative yield in Europe now. Some of them.
Like minus 1.6%. I mean, is that a more bullish case for Bitcoin, right?
Yeah. No. I mean, absolutely.
It's hard also, though, sometimes to get excited about it because you think, oh, this is going to be great for Bitcoin, and then you realize a whole bunch of people are going to get fucked over.
Yeah, that sucks about it. I was just talking with someone earlier today, a friend, about how whenever you're thinking about like a seatbelt, there is an analogy to a seatbelt in a car, and you like put it on every day and you don't even think about it. The one day you need it is like the one day it counts, but you put it on every day.
Yeah.
And there's something about Bitcoin, and there's something about just monetary systems. That one time that we need it, it's going to be super important. And all these other use cases that we're building, they're great, but there is going to be that one time. And there are these cases in Venezuela and elsewhere. I think the thing that a lot of people here aren't thinking about, a lot of people in the US or a lot of people in developed countries aren't thinking about, is that our countries have been through really bumpy financial crises, but people forget about them.
Mm-hmm.
And so when those hit in the future, and there's no doubt that they will hit, it's just a question of when, not if. It's going to be, you're going to have that seatbelt. You're going to have a little bit more control over what's happening and a little more confidence.
We had it 11 years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, that was
That was it.
That was the quote in the start of Bitcoin. 2008 financial crisis, when I bought my house.
Nice.
Right at the peak.
Nice. Ouch.
Top ticker.
Ouch.
Yeah, right at the peak. And but yeah, no, look, I care about companies that are providing utility. I find that really interesting. You talked earlier about like the banks can't really do this, but I have a banking service now with BlockFi. Like, it's a useful banking service.
Right.
I kind of want the next step now. I want the fiat deposits next to my Bitcoin deposits. That's what I really want. And I want to be able to just move between the two of them like fluidly. And I want my Bitcoin part of it to be held in my Casa node, but linked to my account. Like, this is the future. This is where I'm starting to see. This is what I want for the future. So I'm obviously doing quite a layup here.
We just started SatsApp. So like SatsApp is merging, in one view you have the key, the single mobile key, the Lightning Wallet, and then our Sats back rewards. And that's all, we're kind of condensing a lot of the layers on the tech side and the edge of sovereignty side that we're building.
What
I'm
does
sure
the
you
Sats
guys
app
are
do?
working on. It's just a very simple Bitcoin wallet app it's supposed to be the most simple, but it's providing you connection into both direct Lightning node to have full Lightning capability, full node Lightning capability, and having a direct key, non-custodial key, and having some rewards tied in. So the goal there is
the
to have a
rewards from the
singular,
Lightning network?
we actually haven't announced where all the rewards are going to come from, but we have a bunch of cool shit. And one of the earliest ones that we announced is just by connecting your node. So we're just thinking about incentives around, by connecting a Tor node, you're helping out the network, you're improving the network, you're also improving yourself. And so we're going to try to incentivize that. And we're thinking about some other types, but the general point there, to your point of trying to just build this super simplified, fluid experience between fiat and Bitcoin, we're simplifying on the side of Bitcoin on the extreme case, and there will be this day whenever it finally is kind of more fluid on the other side too.
Yeah, I mean, on our end, we're going down the path already. So we have one stable coin available in BlockFi now. We'll have all the major ones available soon. We'll have the ability to have your interest converted. So if, for example, at some point you're holding a lot of dollars in a BlockFi account, but you actually don't want to earn your interest in more dollars, you'd like to just be stacking sats or earning more Bitcoin, you'll be able to have that option. We'll have
you can flip your GUSD interest into Bitcoin.
Exactly. So whatever the interest rate is on GUSD, as that gets paid out each month, we'll just convert it into Bitcoin if you want us to, and then it'll grow your Bitcoin balance. or vice versa. Some people have asked us to let them use their Bitcoin as a passive dollar income stream.
Interesting.
So you have a lot of Bitcoin, you're happy with your Bitcoin exposure. But if your Bitcoin could generate a passive income stream in dollars for you, that's attractive. We should have the banking layer connected by Q1. And then next year, probably back half of Q2, maybe early Q3, we'll have a credit card where you can earn Bitcoin cash back instead of airline miles or normal cash back. So we're going deeper down the path of additional licenses, additional fiat connectivity, additional functionality beyond just debt and credit. And what we're really excited about is that today, if you want to use, the only people that can use BlockFi products today are people who already own Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Once we add the ability to convert between assets, the fiat on and off ramp, and certainly the credit card, we're going to be able to market to people that don't own it yet. And convert non-Bitcoin owners into Bitcoin owners in an environment where they've got things like earning interest and getting low-cost loans all in one spot. So
yeah, I think that's going to be really useful. I like that actually as well. Because it goes into that whole stacking sats thing, which has been really kind of popularized recently.
Well, it's popular because it's fucking awesome.
Yeah, it makes sense. Well, it does it to the point. I mean, I can show you here on my laptop. I have a spreadsheet now where I've got my different places. I've got Bitcoin, like BlockFi and my wallet, and I've got my total. And I'm conscious now, every month, I don't want it to drop.
Amazing.
So every month I want it to go up. So I'm so if I spend it, I've got to make sure I buy some more, or I'm not on Lolly yet because it's mainly US, but I get my interest from you guys, say.
Right.
I'm always thinking of ways, how do I get more? And do you know the other thing I've done? When I get paid in Bitcoin, so I always, I transfer it to dollar because actually pounds, because I run my business on pounds mainly. And now I've changed it to 80%. So I convert 80% and I leave 20% in Bitcoin. I mean, I don't know if I can ever get to
compare this to where you're getting more Bitcoin, right, out of all of this.
Yeah.
And compare this to the fiat bank accounts to where it's the reverse.
Yeah.
Yeah,
right?
well, inflation's 3% and your savings account yields 2 or 0.
It's absurd. It's absurd. And you just play out the linear line from what's happening on both cases. And that's, one thing, we got a ton of criticism from a small group. We got a lot of enthusiasm around the partnership, but we also got a slice of criticism and people asking about interest accounts and how all this stuff works. And one of my arguments has always been, people will take the risk that they're going to take.
Yeah.
And everyone, takes the terms are clear around all of this stuff. But in terms of hyper-Bitcoinization, the way that, in terms of accelerating hyper-Bitcoinization, this entire structure of having financial products, integrating the two, creating better on-ramps, all of the steps, doing even SATSAP, we're creating all of these ways that it's getting faster. It's accelerating the rate at which, if you compare, you're holding your fiat funds and you're just losing money. You put something, you have Bitcoin funds, if you just hold them, or if you put them in some financial account, take out a loan, whatever, you're accelerating. You Sats account, you get Sats back rewards, you're accelerating, right? And from just those continue to diverge, and then what's going to happen? Everybody's going to pool into this.
I can't wait to advertise the credit card. It's going to be so fun.
Yeah.
I want to show like a chart of like the value of your airline miles year over year.
Nice.
Versus like the value of Bitcoin. And we'll launch the card in 2020, right? So it's going to be like last year.
Right.
If you would have been earning your rewards in Bitcoin, guess what would have happened? You'd be, it's not actually.
Especially if like the bull run continues, it'll be nuts.
Even if it doesn't, if we just stop right now, it's already
crazy.
No,
incredible performance for the year.
Yeah, we're at a good price now. It seems like 10K is kind of safe. It might dip slightly under, but like if it dips, it's going to get bought out.
Yeah.
We didn't get helped by the who was the guy? What did he say about Libra?
Yeah, it was the Fed chair.
Yeah, the Fed chair.
Yeah.
What do you make of the Libra thing?
I think they're going to. I mean, you're already seeing it. Like the question mark there is going to be regulation.
Yeah.
Any country that got queasy about Bitcoin is going to get extra queasy about Libra, and even the United States is queasy about Libra. So it's going to be interesting to see how they navigate that.
I mean, Libra's biggest threat is Libra is the biggest threat to just more traditional fiat, not to Bitcoin or not to kind of these extreme cases.
No,
and to some of the smart contract platforms.
Libra's great for Bitcoin.
Yeah,
I think it's going to drive another wave of people going.
Yep.
Like initially, the mainstream or whatever, people that aren't that deep into the sector are going, oh, Facebook is launching a cryptocurrency. That's good for Bitcoin. And then it's going to run into regulatory problems, and then people are going to go, wait, but Bitcoin's still okay. What's the difference?
Yeah.
Or it's going to actually get in market. And unless they can convince the IRS or the U.S. government to change the way the tax code works here, it's going to get treated like a security where you have a gain or a loss on every transaction, and you're never going to be able to use it for payments.
Right.
Because the reporting burden that comes along with that is a total nightmare. Like one of the things we thought about a lot when we were launching the interest account was, should we pay people interest once a month, once a week, once an hour, every block? And we're like, once a month is fast enough, and the only thing that's actually somewhat tenable from a tax reporting perspective, because otherwise you're going to have, hundreds or thousands of transactions, and each one of them is a cost basis. So unless Facebook gets the IRS to change those rules, you're not going to be able to use the thing the way that it's intended to be used. Whereas Bitcoin, you have this, price appreciation component that Libra is not going to have whatsoever because it's backed by a basket of fiat currencies that go down in value.
Well, Brett Stevens put it really well to me. I was in San Francisco. I saw you up there, of course. You were there as well.
Yeah.
And he put it really well. He said it's a win-win for Bitcoin because he said, if Libra goes ahead, we're exposing billions of people to the term cryptocurrency. There's naturally some of them that are going to learn about and migrate to Bitcoin.
It's a conversion funnel.
Yeah, it's just like any denial of that is ridiculous.
Especially if Powell's already calling it gold.
Yeah.
You know?
But then he also said, but if Libra doesn't go ahead, if the Fed say it can't happen, they stop it, and it doesn't go ahead, he said it's also a win for Bitcoin because it proves why Bitcoin is so important.
Yep.
Because you can't close it down. You can't call Bitcoin for a Senate testimony hearing. So he said it's like a win-win. I was like,
wait. Isn't the CEO of Bitcoin in Florida?
Florida? Who's that?
I don't know the reference.
I was in Florida recently. It's a kind of weird place.
Was this your court case thing?
No, this was, I was hanging out with Charlie Schramm.
Oh, yeah.
For a couple of days. Kind of weird.
I listened to that one,
It's a good
actually.
show.
Yeah, it was really good.
It's a weird place, Florida, though.
Yeah.
Next up, I talked to Zac and Jeremy more about very cool Bitcoin stuff. But before that, I do have a message from my amazing sponsors. All right, so firstly, Kraken. Yes, Kraken. The amazing Kraken. The best exchange in the world. And as I said in my intro, did you listen to my show with their Chief Security Officer, Nick Pacocco? If you haven't, it's the last episode. You've got to check it out. It's a monster. It's so interesting to find out about the industry of hacking. There's a whole bunch of stuff in there I'd never even thought of. I didn't even know that happens. So definitely go and check that out. And with that, you'll find out why I love Kraken, why I trust them more than any other exchange, why it's the only one I use for buying and selling Bitcoin, even though they're a sponsor. I would be doing it anyway. You will hear about how Kraken has security embedded in the DNA of the company and the things that Nick thinks about and how he is creating a culture of security at Kraken. Exchange security is so important. We're trusting these companies with our crypto. We don't want them to lose our funds, and we know these hacks happen all the time. And also, Kraken has created Kraken Security Labs, where they're improving the security across the entire industry. So, if you want to join me in supporting Kraken, head over to kraken.com, which is kraken.com. That is kraken.com, which is kraken.com. And also, look, we've got to talk about BlockFi. Yes, this show has got Zac from BlockFi, but come on, you need to understand why this company is so important. Not just because they sponsor my show, not just because they've been sponsoring my show forever. Zac has been a great supporter of what I've been doing, but they are creating utility with Bitcoin. They've got 2 products in the market now that you can use straight away. You can use their crypto-backed loans, where you can use your crypto as collateral for a loan, and you can also use their crypto interest accounts, which I use, where you can earn interest on your Bitcoin, Ether, or GUSD. And also, because of the partnership with Casa, which was the catalyst for this interview, you can get a bunch of bonuses by signing up for Casa. You can get $50 off a Casa node with included gold subscription. You can get $200 off your first year Casa Platinum with 3 or 5 Key Shield multi-sig. And you can also get $500 off your first year of Casa Diamond with 3 or 5 Key Shield and full team support. If you want to find out more about this, you got to head over to BlockFi.com, which is BlockFi.com. That is BlockFi.com, which is BlockFi.com. All right, so utility is important. You guys are doing some good stuff, right? So what else is missing? What else are we missing in the industry? What do we need to happen? Like, personally, I'm still on the education front. The bridge from no coiner, disinterested, to having some interest, that's the hardest bit. Once you've sparked an interest, I don't find anyone who's got that first spark who isn't constantly asking questions still there. It's that bridge from, like, when I put something up on Facebook, I put something up recently about trying to explain how your money decreases in value due to inflation, blah, blah, blah. Bitcoin can't, blah, blah, blah. There's no interest. I can't seem to get people to flip from nothing to something. That's the hardest bridge. How do we do that?
Yeah, I think education is certainly part of it. And I think that, we as stewards of the industry and other people that have a voice would be served well to talk about the positive things and not the scary things that make Bitcoin likely to go up in price. The other thing is integration into places where people already are. So, we can keep acquiring new customers, we can launch new products to do that. Other cryptocurrency companies can as well. But if you see more things like Square, Robinhood, Fidelity, TD Ameritrade, like bringing Bitcoin to where people already have their money or where they already have their investments is a big trend and something that helps a lot. Rakuten in Japan, all of that is massive and super helpful, and that has to continue. And there will still be some regulatory stuff. If we play this thing out, like the countries that are hostile to Bitcoin now, flipping them to being pro-Bitcoin at some point along the way, and I'm mainly thinking about India and China, is also going to be massive. So if you can start to, as adoption grows, have people in those countries caring enough about this to say, we don't want it to be banned here anymore, and that matters a lot to us, then you just unlock so much.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, India and China, you're talking about, what's that, like about a fifth of the world's population?
Yeah. I think that part of it, you can't swim unless you're actually in the water.
Yeah.
So in some sense, you either got to throw people into the deep end or you got to throw them into the kiddie pool, but you got to throw them in some water at some point. And I think that we think a lot about, with the new Sats back thing and with Sats app, we're trying to think about really simple, easy adoption cases, ways people can do even just a little bit of Sats. I think that's going to be useful. You've got cases like Lightning Pizza. The Fold guys just are making it easy to you can send Lightning and now pay out and a bunch of different retailers. There's a lot of those use cases. People might get their first exposure by just paying for something in Bitcoin. And then later on, they might have a Bitcoin pizza moment and they realize, holy shit, if I had saved that. And then they start to understand some of the economics behind it, right? So I think that, again, you got to throw people in the water before they're going to understand, and no amount of education in total is going to, you can study this shit all day long, but until you're actually in the water swimming or actually out there sailing, like, you're not going to really get it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Companies like Lolly, like I'm really curious to see Lolly at some point release the stat from a survey or otherwise where they explain the distribution of their customers between already owned Bitcoin and didn't already own Bitcoin. I know that, we every day people create an account at BlockFi, go through our KYC process, and then get stuck on the depositing Bitcoin part of it because they were attracted to being able to earn interest at a 6% rate. But then they got all the way through and they're like, oh, well, I don't have any Bitcoin yet. I was assuming that you were going to let me buy some.
Yep.
And then I was going to get the 6% interest. So it's little things like this. Like, everyone understands what an interest rate is.
And they're not getting that interest rate from their regular savings account.
If you've used Ebates online,
yeah,
you understand the process of getting rewarded for going through a certain, link into another site where you're about to buy something. Obviously, everybody who's ever had a credit card understands the concept of cash back and credit card rewards. So if you give people those ramps that they're used to, I think that's going to be massive. And that's why stacking sats has attracted so much attention, because it's really, really powerful.
Yep.
What do you think about the idea of exchanges migrating to pricing in sats rather than Bitcoin?
I think there's going to have to be a conversation at some point around doing that. Like, the number is too big. We're in dollars, and at 12,000 or whatever the exact price is right now, that's already a big number. Imagine if you're pricing it in a different currency. Imagine if you're pricing it in rupees.
Well, I did that.
Or
I did it in the what did I do it in? The like Ugandan shilling.
Yeah.
Something like 250,000 Ugandan shilling, or like
it's.
Oh no, it's the Vietnamese dong. It was, it was like 8 million Viet. I don't fucking know what it was. It was a lot. Yeah, it's ridiculous.
It's gonna have to
not
happen.
being able to do head math.
Yeah,
makes things challenging.
As the price of Bitcoin rises, it's gonna have to happen.
I mean,
so, people are already. I mean, there's two jumps, right? The one jump is, instead of denominating in dollars and thinking about your conversion back into dollars, just thinking of it purely in Bitcoin. And we already have people doing that. We have tons of. I mean, all of our clients think of their houses in Bitcoin and their trades in Bitcoin, and it's definitely jumped that curve. But the second thing too is that as the price of Bitcoin rises, thinking about sats or thinking about smaller units, and big people still don't know that you don't have to buy a whole Bitcoin.
Well, yeah. So I remember when I first got back in, and the Bitcoin say was like $600 or $700. So I bought one, and I was like, then I put like $5,000 in my Coinbase account. And I bought a few, but I know people now, like, it's going to come back on their radar. We're going to have a new all-time high. The mainstream press is going to go, Bitcoin is at a record price. All my friends are going to be like, shit, I missed out again. They're going to come speak to me and blah, blah, blah. Even if you get them onto like a Coinbase or a Kraken, they're going to be like, I can't get one. But if it's priced in sats, they're like, all right, for like $200, I can get like whatever 1,000 sats. I'm in. Give me some of this.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be a better experience for them. But
yeah,
it's a shift for everyone else.
Yeah, agreed.
100%.
I don't think it's that much of a shift for the Bitcoiners.
No. But what I'm saying is, like, we're the ones who have to actually make the change.
Yeah.
It's us who are because new people coming in, it won't mean anything different.
Yeah.
But do you call them sats? Or do you call them?
We just launched SatsApp, so we're pushing. We're pushing.
You're going for it.
I haven't decided. I don't know if we've called them sats in any of our marketing materials yet. I mean, I think that's the most logical thing, probably. The only other thing I've even seen is MBTC. I don't know if that's.
I think it becomes too confusing with because there's the millisats. Is that the millisats? And then I can't remember. There's so many. I think it's too confusing. I think you have pounds and pence, dollars and cents, Bitcoin and sats. I think that's enough. I don't think you want to have like 3 or 4 different.
Yeah.
For different decimals.
All right, it's settled then.
Right.
Sats.
So we need to do a campaign for the exchanges. Another thing that I think has been super helpful actually is the way all the alts in terms of Bitcoin price are just going down and down. It's like a never-ending bear market for the alts. I know you can look at something like Bitcoin Cash or Ethereum and say, "Oh, $300 is up," but it's not. It's down. Like, if you're holding anything else, you'll lose in Bitcoin.
Yeah,
and it just won't stop.
I think that trend is going to continue. absent mass adoption for something that's running on the Ethereum network, I don't see anything. Maybe some of the exchange tokens could be unique as well, just because they have so much money that they can shove into those things if they want to. But outside of those two use cases,
But Libra is playing a factor in this too.
Yeah.
I mean, Libra, if you can build on top of it, and they're talking about having full SDK and smart contracts, et cetera, I mean, that's going to factor in. Everybody's known, or not everyone, but people should know that we've already been through one of these cycles before to where a majority of the coins died. And it's going to happen again. And so it's just a matter of time. And the more kind of bulwark we have of other potentially dominant coins, the more some of the lesser coins are going to die faster.
It's still something you come across with trying to explain things to people. A guy gave me a call. I'm not going to throw him under the bus, but he was like, I saw Bitcoin's on the rise again. Like, I thought it was dead. Like, you know the standard questions. I thought it was dead. I was like, no, it's not dead. He was like, oh, but it's a bit overpriced now, right? It's too expensive. So I was thinking of getting some of the other ones. Like he said, I was going to get some Litecoin and some Bitcoin Cash. What do you think? And I was like, okay, here we go. Time to explain it again. We still got those barriers.
Yeah.
My answer to that is always split the difference. So you think it's too expensive right now? Do you think you could be wrong? And people are always like, yeah, I don't know what I'm talking about. And it's like, okay, how much were you planning on doing? And then they say some number. You're like, all right, take half of it and buy it now in case you're wrong.
Yeah. That's a good method. I mean, just dollar cost averaging in.
Yeah.
So weekly stacking sats, right? Just buying Square Cash or wherever. I've definitely advised a few people, and for certain people, I would not advise that they dump a ton in, but most people throwing 10 or 25 or $50 a week is like no big deal. And so it's a lot easier way as the price fluctuates that they feel better about it overall.
I think Pomp was saying recently he's gone 50% of his net worth into Bitcoin.
Pomp?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. I wish I'd put my house into it. A couple months ago, I could have paid my mortgage off by now.
I don't know what the exact number is, but I do know that if any respectable financial advisor looked at how much I have in Bitcoin relative to how much money I have in total, they would tell me I have some serious problems.
Yeah. But you got to remember,
you're
all
insane.
all these financial advisors that came from the old world, the fiat world. So
The dead fiat world.
yeah.
Do you really think we can have a hyper Bitcoinization, or do you think it's more likely just to be like a commodity like gold?
I've thought about this a lot, and I think that the concept of hyper Bitcoinization being something that happens quickly is really scary, and honestly not something that I think is ideal. I think the integration of it potentially as a blanket or band-aid around the existing system, like for me, a better path would be central banks start adding it to their balance sheets. You get adoption that way, and I think the concept of like Bitcoin taking down the dollar as the currency of the world is so incredibly unlikely at this point. But if you see Bitcoin start to knock out some crappy currencies, then maybe I change my opinion. But that's what I'd like to see happen.
Yeah, I think sometimes possibly I don't see hyper Bitcoinization in the short term, maybe not even lifetime. I think there'll be a lot of resistance from government. I think it could be quite bloody. I think we talked about this when we did our last show.
I mean, there will be battles, there'll be tanks over Bitcoin. So,
but I would also be surprised if there is no government out there at the moment doing their own form of stacking sats. I mean,
we've already seen this though. We've already seen. So Venezuela has definitely been stacking sats.
Yeah.
We've seen the North Korean government
Iran
stacking sats. Iran has been stacking sats. Like it's happening.
We need some better countries.
Well, I joke about, and this is a joke, but it's also partially serious. That like you want to talk about extreme scenarios and. People hate on Trump or they hate on whoever is as the presidency, but for any, corporation in the country that is holding, potentially holding keys, if you're like a massive organization, you have keys, then they could nationalize. Like crazier things have happened, and so you have to kind of like roll out to yes, I do believe that there is a potential for a real hyper Bitcoinization event. And you have to kind of think through what the extreme cases would be in that. And that's why we talk a lot about sovereignty side and holding your keys and, in some cases and use financial products, but think about the risks and think about the balance here. But there's going to be, I do think that it's not only possible, I think it's likely, but I think it's like the timeline is unknown. And that's the real risk, is like the timeline is unknown.
All right, what are the extreme, you said the extreme cases there. I want to know what you're thinking about.
Think about this. Like it's not, there have been extreme government cases to whether it's gold confiscation or other asset confiscation, and all you have to do is knock, you're a, U.S. corporation and you hold keys to X number of Bitcoin, and now it's nationalized, right?
Right.
So from the side of non-custodial usage of Bitcoin, like it is important to have that counterbalance.
Do you think that would happen again though? Like, I think we're in a very different time from.
No,
Was it
I mean
Nixon?
it definitely,
Was it Nixon who stole the gold?
definitely could happen. It definitely could happen. People far underweight extreme events, kind of in both cases, both in cases that can hurt them and in cases that can help them. And the other thing is, like with technology events, we see this over and over and over again, and it's repeated over and over and over again. It always happens slower than people expect, but when it happens faster. You're unprepared when it does actually happen and when the adoption really pushes through. And you can literally track those waves. And so, you can play out in your head a case of where one country, you just mentioned kind of secretly buys up some Bitcoin. We know of some cases where countries are not so secretly getting Bitcoin, but if countries secretly buy Bitcoin, and then it just sets off a wheel where every other country tries to buy Bitcoin.
Well, so I always thought, look, if I was the US government, I can print money at will. So let's print $1 billion, let's buy $1 billion of Bitcoin. Like, let's do it in the background. Let's announce it. The price of Bitcoin is going to skyrocket.
Yeah.
You can pay off your national debt then.
Yeah. And there's no cap. Like there's no cap to that. That's the crazy thing about the economics around Bitcoin, is that as long as there's demand, it will keep going up.
What, on a long enough time scale, it's always going to go up.
That's right.
If people use it.
That's right.
Because decreasing supply, we've got a halving event coming in next year. So I was with Jessica at Ledger X. They've got a futures product based on the halving. Because there's a lot of uncertainty for the miners. So the block subsidy is going to drop in half.
Yeah.
Say June 2020. They've actually got a futures product based on what date it will happen, because you can't actually pinpoint the date, but also what's going to happen to the price.
Well, then we got to get into questions of time, Bitcoin time versus Newtonian time.
Yeah.
What does that
Go ahead. We'll go back to that, but keep going.
The really interesting thing here that you've got to weigh up. Okay, block subsidy is going to drop. It's going to drop in half, right? But because of the halvening and the restricted supply, going from 1,800 to 900 Bitcoin a day dropping on the market, because of that, the price might go up. So whilst the subsidy drops, the miners might still make the same amount of money. They might make more because the price has gone up so much.
Yeah, if the demand stays the same.
But then the ASIC manufacturers will start increasing supply.
Yeah.
People will be buying mining equipment like they did in 2017. So you've got all these different factors coming into play.
Yeah.
It's going to get a bit kind of screwy.
Not to mention the election next year.
Yeah, of course.
And all the political chaos going on. So it's going to be a crazy year.
Do y'all ever feel like you're part of like this club that somehow found out the good stuff that was going to happen before most other people?
Yeah, I just wish I got in the club a couple of years earlier though.
I don't so much like call it a club. It's kind of like you're trying to get out of the asylum, right?
Okay.
It's like you're kind of stuck inside.
You're
it's like
broken out.
Yeah. Either way, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. So I think all of us we're basically building our way out. And it's interesting. I think a lot of early Bitcoiners didn't really think it would move as fast as it moved.
No.
And so whenever they all of a sudden are sitting around with a balance of thousands of Bitcoin or hundreds of Bitcoin or even tens of Bitcoin, one Bitcoin at this point, all of a sudden now you have a massive amount of money that you have to protect. And that's where we came in, why we started. But it's for a lot of our clients, it was unexpected. And so then they have to make a choice. Do you cash out or do you really believe in the thing? And then do you really, and from that perspective, it's like you're just kind of thrown into it. And if you sell, you got to pay cap gains. And if it goes up, then you're gonna be kicking yourself. But if you really believe in it and you hold on to it and it keeps going, so you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't.
I made a deal with my wife that I would sell like a percentage of the amount of Bitcoin that I have when we crossed 10K, and I reneged on that so hard.
Of course. Why?
I was like, I just can't. No, I'm sorry. I just can't.
Nope. Just make it 100K, add a zero.
So as somebody who blew most of my Bitcoin being a moron and getting into mining, like I've made a decision. I'm going to go through 3 halvenings. So I said in 10 years' time, I'll have gone through 3 halvenings.
Okay.
So the supply would have gone from 1,800 to 900 to 450 to 225 a day. Like, I'm not selling anything till then. I can survive for 10 years. As long as I'm alive, I can survive for 10 years, and that's it. I'm going through 3 before I sell any.
Yep.
And then I think it might have been Dan Held who said to me, he said, you'll get to the point where you won't need to sell it because it will just work for you.
Yeah.
Maybe with a company like BlockFi, it just works for you. So you don't actually have to do anything. You can live off it, which is obviously the hopeful situation that some of us might be fortunate enough to get into, but
it's not going to be easy.
no.
That's the other thing, is that like the flip side of that from Dan Hedl. I think the flip side of that is that it's not going to be easy. There's that Reddit graphic to where it's like, what you think hodling's going to be like, and then the actual like dips and everything. I think that it's just hodling itself is an emotional experience, but now there are going to be all these security risks that come up, and we're already starting to see those. We've seen people that have been held at gunpoint, and then we're barely on the edge of the game to where you're getting nation state actors, and everybody's watching Game of Thrones. They're pissed because of the way the ending worked, and we won't do any spoilers. But either way, like everybody enjoyed Game of Thrones because there's all these crazy politics and dragons fighting each other and wars and whatever. That stuff's real. Like nation states do play out this statecraft, and they are trying to stab at each other in the back all the time. And eventually, we're going to get to the level to where it's not person to person. We already see the case to where there's organized crime involved in trying to steal this from people, and it's going to level up to the point to where it's corporate craft, and then it's statecraft, and then where do we go from there? It's going to get dicey.
I liked the ending of Game of Thrones. I didn't have any problem with it.
I've never seen it.
What?
I know, it's sad.
How have you not seen Game of Thrones?
I'm not cool, man. We've got like
all right, I have an admission to make too. I watched the first 2 episodes, and then I watched the one last episode. I didn't watch anything in between.
That's terrible.
It was great. Yeah. It was great. There is actually a trick if you ever don't want to watch a full movie, or you ever get hooked on a show, then just read the Wikipedia article, because your mind will get hooked on the linear narrative, and then you just read the Wikipedia article, you get the plot points.
You just want to inject like stuff into your brain, right? You want to get the
Namshubs.
What's that? You want to get the I want to learn Spanish, just inject it in.
Yeah. Namshubs.
Is that called, what is that?
That's Neil Stephenson's term in Snow Crash. It's like these mental viruses, memes.
You need some entertainment though. What was the Bitcoin time thing you were talking about a moment ago?
You don't have 24 hours in the day. You have a number of blocks.
Wow.
So there was a big like breakthrough for me around Bitcoin, and I did have a tweet storm about this, but it's gone because I wiped my tweets, right?
I've changed mine.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I did the same as you.
Yeah.
What is this?
It's freeing. It's different. It's weird.
Yeah. So tweet deleter.
Yeah.
And you can set it on a certain number of days or a certain number of tweets, and it just deletes all your old tweets. So I'm glad I did it. I had a couple of people have a pop at me, and I've had to have conversations, explain why I've done it. But also, it actually got rid of some good stuff.
Yeah.
I was like, where was that?
But you just got to put the disclaimer there. I feel like it pushes you to like continue to create in a sense. As long as you put the disclaimer, and as long as you think about it, and the ideas that are still relevant, they'll persist in some capacity.
Yeah, I mean, they don't really matter that much, the old ones. And I think more of it is just a relief to get because I tend to you post smart stuff, I post moronic bullshit.
Yeah.
You're an educator and maybe I'm an entertainer. But so I've got myself away from it. But then also it deleted a bunch of stuff that. So my actually I can't talk about this. I'll tell you off. I'll tell you afterwards.
All right. Well,
it's a legal thing.
We'll go back to the Bitcoin time thing. So the breakdown is Newtonian time is our current time system and the way we coordinate the world.
Yeah.
There was a period to where timekeeping and the way that we coordinate all of our calendars and meetings, et cetera, the reason you have clock towers at train stations and at city centers is because everybody would look to that clock and then they would set their local clock. They would set their watch on their wrist, right?
Like Back to the Future clock.
Yeah, and their wristwatch would be off by X number of minutes or hours every year, and they just reset it when they come in, and then they stay on track, and then eventually you get to atomic clocks, and but we're still bound by this kind of linear time narrative, and it's not. You actually can build an entirely different system if you break down that Newtonian time narrative, because it actually Newtonian time is a crock of shit. Like, it's total bullshit. And we know that the edges of relativity, we know that just based on, and I'm not a physicist, so I don't know all the details, and I can't dig into the exact reasons of the differences in time, but I do know that there's, just even your elevation. Like, if you live in in a tall mountain, you age actually at a faster rate than you live at a very low elevation, and it may be tied to gravity, it may be tied to other things. So there are all these effects of time that are just like, you can't, that Newtonian time is not totally accurate. And we do this reconciliation, all of our systems do it, but there are alternative systems, and other civilizations historically have used totally different calendars, totally different time systems. Different religions today also use very different calendars, different time systems. And so there is this concept of like Bitcoin time, in the sense that, from block to block, you just watch the next block, and it actually doesn't matter kind of when the block arrives, in the same sense that, when we think of a sunrise and a sunset, it doesn't necessarily matter when the sun rises. It's actually like we tie it more to the time on our clocks, where in a previous civilization, your entire day was actually structured by when the sun rose and when it went down.
Right.
But now that we're using this Newtonian time system with atomic clocks, it's actually tied to a different set of time, to where we're watching the decay of atoms, and your rise and fall is not based on the rise and fall of the sun, it's based on this decay. And so there's also an alternative to where you actually base that on, the blocks that come out.
Right, so you can make a dinner reservation at block
Exactly.
2 million.
Exactly. Right? And there's a sense, and like there's a weird game to where people are already doing this in a sense, because you do have time locks.
Yeah.
And so people they're already saying, actually, I'm going to wait until X block, and I'm going to lock up my funds until X block. And so it's interesting that this, that Ledger X is doing this futures market around when it's going to arrive. Because what they're basically arbitraging is the difference between our current time system and the Bitcoin time system. But if you there's bound to be, eventually someone will break out of our current time system, and they'll do some totally crazy shit, because they'll just be bound to the Bitcoin time system, and, whatever rules that brings up.
Yeah, I like all this other weird shit that starts happening with Bitcoin. So obviously we have Bitcoin as a store of wealth, transfer of value, blah, 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 right? Old Bitcoin. But now we have Bitcoin time, or we have time stamps, or we have identity built into blockchain, which Daniel Buckner's doing at Microsoft, or all these other things where it takes Bitcoin beyond. Yeah,
it's not a financial system. That's the thing that's our biggest pitch to any investors. Like, Bitcoin is not just a financial system; it's a computing system, it's a time system, it's like all these other things. There was a point where they called it time chain, not the blockchain.
Yeah.
Right.
So is it a trust system?
Yeah. Well, it's a communication system.
Communication system.
Yeah, but like trust is a function of communication. So we send signals back and forth, and I got to be able to trust that the signal you send me is real, and the signal I'm sending you is real, and it has to arrive. And Bitcoin provides a more reliable way of doing that.
And also, it's something that never gets hacked. You as an individual do, but the system itself.
Yeah.
There's still never.
Exchanges get hacked.
Yeah.
People get hacked. Bitcoin doesn't get hacked.
The blockchain itself doesn't get hacked. But what other uses are there for that we're not thinking about, or you're thinking about, that it can be used for?
Oh, there's a ton. It's just like we don't even know exactly. I think we're just on the edge of this thing. That's what's exciting too. And this is one of the things that we're talking about. We're kind of locked in the asylum in a sense. Is that like anybody that's in the Bitcoin world, you already get. And it's not even just Bitcoin. It's like people go down the Bitcoin rabbit hole, and then maybe they get sucked into Ethereum, or they get sucked into these other areas. And even within, there's a weird thing where even within just cryptocurrencies, period, everybody's like, well, you're an idiot, well, you're an idiot, well, you're an idiot. But at least everybody's recognizing that, okay, cryptographic money is a real thing.
Yeah.
And everybody's looking at the no coiners and being like, okay, like these guys, right? What the hell is going on with these guys? So there's something weird going on to where everybody that's in that world is kind of going down the rabbit hole together and is moving faster and is like figuring things out as they go along, where everybody that's left behind is, they're just totally oblivious.
I'm finding more people are going from multi-coin into Bitcoin now. I'm really starting to see that.
Yeah.
Seeing it on Twitter, people I'm talking to. I mean, my own sense of self-relief was when, I transferred everything to Bitcoin far too late, but I did it.
You made a good call on that, though. You were talking about it, I remember.
Well, not the show. I'm on about my own portfolio. I just put it all into Bitcoin. And
Nice.
And it was because I didn't want to trade anymore. It was going down and whatever. But now I've barely checked the price anymore.
Yeah.
I hear about it when people talk about it. I don't open... Blockfolio gets looked at like once every couple of weeks. All I do is every month I check my sats and I'm always increasing. That's all I care about.
Yeah.
So that's been super helpful. The show's a separate thing, entirely Bitcoin, just for focus, which has been cool. And then I can trigger the ETH heads for a bit of fun. But I'm finding a lot of people are starting to have that light bulb moment. They're like, yeah, it is Bitcoin, right? I mean, most of your business is Bitcoin, right?
Yeah, I mean, over 90% of our business is Bitcoin. Same as my...
That is. I'm actually surprised by that. That's insane.
I thought it would be more...
I actually thought it would be like comparable at 90%. That is actually awesome. Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, we find a similar thing. We went down this initial path where we had people asking us, and we got a lot of shit for it, but we had people asking us, customers asking us, not paying customers. They're paying you for a business, and we have to stay in business, right? And so paying customers are coming to us saying, hey, I have some Litecoin, or I have some Ethereum, or I have some Zcash. Like, I want to apply the same security principles. So we tried to go down that path, but it was just too expensive. And what we found, though, is that majority of cases, it was 95% Bitcoin, and then just 5% whatever else. And the payoff around doing whatever else, the different businesses will make their decisions on what they support, but it's interesting that as big, and now it's what the dominance index is 60+%.
Yeah,
That's also
75 or
misleading, though, right? It's so misleading because you create something
math in there.
Yeah, and you create something like Bitcoin SV, and it's suddenly worth billions.
Yeah, so it's more. What you're saying is it's actually more.
Yeah, because no one's even fucking using Bitcoin SV, apart from putting weather reports in their thing. It's like no one's using this shit, right? No one's using Bitcoin Cash, but they've got a percentage of the value, right? I guess it's market makers are kind of keeping a value in it, but no one's using this bullshit.
Yeah.
And so I think that market dominance thing is misleading as well.
I still love the fact that no one's in charge, and as a result, you can't really fuck with Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Like, you just... I always loved, like, that Honey Badger video way back in the day, and then, like, I feel like when I started hearing the Bitcoin Honey Badger references, I was like... I was already in a little bit, but now I'm like, they call it the Honey Badger too? Like, I'm like...
Hell yeah.
I'm like, let's go. This is... It's so fucking good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm in it.
You can't mess with it. Every other cryptocurrency has attack vectors or people or corporations. In the case of Libra, and Bitcoin stands on its own.
But I still don't
when it
mind
comes to
Libra.
that stuff.
And I kind of
I think they're good, but
Yeah.
I'm saying you nothing else has that unique component to it.
No, and you're absolutely right. You are, but a lot of them don't even make sense. Like I like Charlie Lee. I think he's a great guy. Litecoin, I don't see a need anymore. I like Monero because I like Ricardo. But again, am I trying to do private transactions? I'm not, so I don't need it. I don't get Ethereum. I really don't get Ethereum. I don't get it. Like, I don't get the point. But with Bitcoin, I'm just like, this makes sense because I'm using it. And I'm using it, like, I wouldn't say daily, but I'm using it weekly, right? I don't know. Every time I do an interview with Jeremy, it always ends up like this. I'm like, what's
Sorry, dude. I'm like,
mind blown. Gotta get more.
time chain, dude. Time chain.
Gotta get more Bitcoin.
Sats and time chain. Those are the two term changes we got to get to. Right?
All right. Well, listen, look. What's going to happen over the next kind of year, 5 years? Both time frames. What are we going to see? What's important?
I mean, price is going to be higher. More, I think it's just going to be more of the same, right?
Yeah.
So my personal view is that we're not going to have a crazy paradigm shift on that time frame, but we are going to continue to see this just march towards greater adoption, greater understanding, higher prices, better integration into existing parts of the financial system, more success from people like us who are like working their butts off to build real companies, delivering real value to people that own these assets, and that's exciting. It's probably going to go faster than it has.
Chaos, balkanization, and Bitcoin clarity. That's it.
Ah, man.
That's how it's going to go the next year.
I need a little
Chaos.
I need
Balkanization and Bitcoin
What is
clarity.
balkanization?
It's just like separation, fracturing of a system. The Balkans.
I need a little desktop Jeremy. Just sits on my shouting
Tap
Bitcoin.
it, it's gonna-
Bitcoin. Get some
Chaos,
more Bitcoin.
balkanization,
Yeah, get some more.
Bitcoin clarity.
All right, well, wicked. Look, tell everyone.
That's great.
All right. Well, you've both got two really fucking cool businesses. I love them both, you know that. But tell people how to get hold of you, how to find out more about the product. If they haven't got a Casa node, tell them why the fuck they need one. Tell them about BlockFi. Tell them how they find out about you. Come on, here's your moment.
I feel like you do it every week.
I do it every week anyway, don't I? Yeah, I did it with Casa. Got a shout out. You should
I
ask
can't
for a
even.
few bucks off Jeremy for that.
You know where to find us.
Yeah.
My Twitter handle is BlockFi Zac. My DMs are open if anybody wants to chat with me. One thing I really have enjoyed is every time your podcast or others, sometimes people just reach out and they like either say something nice or say something mean or ask me a question, and I'm like, all right, cool. So we just sat in a room and talked for an hour. Like some people were paying attention.
Yeah.
And they just like pinged me. So my Twitter handle is at BlockFi Zac. So
All right, cool.
hit me up.
Yeah. Any energy is good energy. Even haters. Like I love it because you always learn and honestly if
People
someone
aren't
is
hating
taking the time to like reach out to you because they think that you're shit, you should listen. Because people are passionate, you want the energy, you want to like understand what their perspective is, and you learn from it. So Casa, keys.casa is, you can check us out there, get a Casa node, reclaim your sovereignty. We've also been talking a bunch about cyberspace recently. We have this concept that like we're kind of setting the new frontier out in cyberspace again, and Bitcoin is a part of that, and the internet's been colonized. So we've been talking about that some internally. But yeah, I mean, you can reclaim your space. You can start running a Bitcoin node, Lightning node, and you can secure all of that stuff using our multi-sig. So keys.casa, and then you can check out Casa Hodl for Twitter and Jeremy R. Welch for Twitter too. And we have the new Sats app, which is like the easiest way to get started with this stuff. So it's not widely available yet. We're still testing with a bunch of our existing clients, but as that comes online, we're hoping to get Sats into not just millions, but billions of hands.
Billions of hands. All right.
Billions.
All right. Well, as ever, Jeremy, you've got me super hyped. I'm going to go and sell my children
right.
and get some more Bitcoin. Zach, always a pleasure. You always give me beer when I come over. Love being here, man. All right, guys. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks, man.
All right. So what did you make of that? Did you enjoy that? Have you heard my previous shows with Jeremy and with Zach? If you haven't, go back, check them out, especially that last one with Jeremy, because that's super bullish. I do love talking to Jeremy. I keep bumping into him in different places recently, and every time I do, he's got some new subject he's talking to me about, which is blowing my mind. And when you double that up and you get Zac Prince in, who's creating the future of financial services with Bitcoin, you know you're going to get a recipe for something cool. This was a great show. Do you know what it was like? It was just like being down the pub with some mates, but rather than talking about just random bollocks, we were talking about Bitcoin. So that was super cool. I absolutely love this. I love hearing where these guys think Bitcoin is going. They're right at the forefront of it. Jeremy, as ever, took it up a level. I've never really thought about Bitcoin being used as a time system, and I'm not entirely sure I fully understand it, but you know what? I love it. I love the fact that he's thinking like that. I love the fact that I love it when people start thinking about Bitcoin in kind of weird and different ways, and the unintended consequences you get with Bitcoin. So yeah, super interesting. Definitely one for blowing the mind a little bit more. As I always say, if you've got any questions about this, you can reach out to me. My email address is hello@whatbitcoindid.com, Also, need to say a massive thank you to everyone who supports the show, everything you do, to my sponsors, to people who leave reviews, whatever you do, just a massive thanks. But if you do want to support the show, there's loads of things you can do. All right, firstly, listen to the ads. I know it's annoying to listen to the ads, but these are the people that pay me to go around the world and do these interviews, and I hope you agree that doing them in person are just a much higher quality. But if you don't want to listen to the ads, you can get away from them. You can sign up at patreon.com/whatbitcoindid. For $5 a month, you can get the show ad-free. And if you don't want to use Patreon, you can subscribe with crypto. Just drop me an email. I'll give you a deposit address and then add you to the distribution list. I'm also accepting Lightning now. You can buy merch. You can become a show sponsor. Look, my ads are sold out till Feb next year, but I am starting to think about next year, who I'm going to be working with. If you think you want to work with me on the show, then get in touch. I'm regularly doing over 200,000 downloads a month. So yes, get in touch. Email me on hello@whatbitcoindid.com. A few other things you can do. You can leave me a review on iTunes. That's really helpful. You can click on the subscribe button. You can follow me on social media. I'm at What Bitcoin Did on everything, but I'm also, my personal is at Peter McCormack on Twitter. You can check out my website, which is whatbitcoindid.com. You can sign up to my newsletter, and you can also share the show out with your friends and family. All right, so as I said, I'm back off to London on Saturday. I'm going home, need to spend some time with my kids, and then I'm going to take a few weeks off. We're going to be going out to Asia, having a holiday, having a well-needed break, but I have got a bunch of shows. So while I'm away, you'll still be getting your dose of what Bitcoin did. All right, any questions, feel free to reach out to me. It's hello@whatbitcoindid.com.